Welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams Birch, and this podcast, it exists for you. Whether you're a music lover, an educator, a choir member, each week we bring guests to the show to help explore what matters in music. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams Birch, and this is episode 59 with Evan Powers. Evan is so much fun to talk to. He is a middle school master. He taught high school before he taught middle school, and today we unpack the foundational things that he puts into his 6th grade beginning choir for those first 9 or 10 weeks, and the conducting recital. Oh, so exciting. I'm going to have to figure out a way to have one of those. And then we talk about service learning, but not just any type of service learning. The type of service projects and service events that are infused into your program to help facilitate those foundations, the musical foundations, but also life foundations, heart, soul, leadership, and more. You are going to walk away with so many ideas from this one. We'll be talking about this summer at our Music Ed Matters Teacher PD weekend in Savannah. We are going to have so many great conversations July 23rd, 24th, and 25th. All the details over at patreon.com/musicedmatters, or shoot me a message if you need something, emilybirch.org/contact. This episode, along with all of the wonderful episodes on the Music Ed Matters podcast, is brought to you by our friends over at the Kennison Choral Company. Charlie and Carrie Kennison over at the KCC family have amazing resources for you. Go check them out, emilybirch.org/sponsors. Click on the KCC logo, and you can use their calculator to find out where you can find time in your rehearsals to infuse even more service opportunities and personal leadership growth for your students and your singers. All right, without further ado, episode 59 with my friend, Evan Powers. Today on the Music Ed Matters podcast, we are welcoming middle school teacher extraordinaire, awesome human being, Evan Powers. Hey, Evan.
Hello.
I'm so glad that you are here today. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you. You're my friend.
You are my friend, and we've been friends since you were an undergrad. I was in grad school, Florida State.
I was a little bitty baby.
You were amazing at teaching then, too, though.
I was lost then, and I'm lost now. We're all just lost, right?
I love that you're also recording this right after a full school day. How was your day of school?
It was fun. We learned about we've been doing this World Music Wednesday thing that my friend Christiane Lynch at Bridgewater Middle School in Orlando, Florida, started doing with her kids, and during COVID, just because we have extra time to do awesome stuff like that. So every Wednesday she picked a different country, and the kids have this like Google Slides passport that they like get stamped for each country every week, and the kids can't wait to do it. And you learn about a little bit of the geography, a little bit of the history. They always want to know about the food. So we cover the food. We learn like a little bit of dance from a country. We learn some of the music and try and like focus on like one genre or two genres. It's so fun. And so we did Jamaica today. So we did some dance hall dance moves, and we listened to some Bob Marley and, all that good stuff. It was so fun.
That sounds like a great Wednesday.
And then we had a weather hold, so it wasn't great anymore. But that's okay. The kids
It's okay. I mean, we're recording. I'm sure they can probably hear the rain coming through my window on the microphone because it is torrential southern downpouring right now.
It's beautiful. Well, it's the right time of day for that. So
it is. And at least it's getting rid of the pollen. Is all the pollen crazy down there too?
So it was horrible. We had like a carpet of yellow for a long time. But yes. I would say it cleared up. Well, I mean, it's still in the air and stuff, but the crazy yellow carpet ended about a month ago.
Yeah, I think we're just a smidge behind you because it turned green there for a little bit.
Oh.
And now there's all these new things blooming. So if my voice sounds really low, my last few recordings I've been like, oh, I sound like a very interesting when I'm talking.
I've been like, hello.
Hello, how are you? Okay, so tell the listener, who is Evan Powers and how did he get into a middle school choir classroom?
Evan Powers is confused at all times and just trying to figure this thing out. So I grew up in Connecticut, born in Maryland, grew up in Connecticut, and loved to sing and dance in the back of my mom's minivan constantly. Yes. And I would always be like moving and twitching around to the music, and I would like breathe melodies and stuff like that. And so my mom was like, you know what you need to do? Children's choir. She knew that children's choir existed as a psychologist, and she
That's so
encouraged
cool.
me to do that. I know. And my parents were always, they could tell that I love to sing and do all that stuff. So took me to see some shows and encouraged me to do songsters in 3rd grade at Tolland Elementary School. And I loved that. And so I just kind of got bit by the choir bug very early, and was always singing in choirs, but was not thinking about it for a career at all until we were in high school. And my chorus teacher, my first half of high school, Chris Hartel, took us on a shout out, you're awesome. Took us to on a trip to Italy, and we were singing. We were singing like motets in Italy where they were written, and it was just, there's when you get something like that, there's no other experience like that.
No,
And
travel.
I was just so taken in that particular moment, in like, man, if he's able to give these kinds of experiences to kids, I want to give these kinds of experiences to kids. And so that was the turning point where I decided that was what I wanted to pursue, and then pursued it from there. So took piano lessons. Those didn't help very much, but my teacher was amazing. And went to I'm just terrible at the piano.
It's okay.
Went to Florida State.
How did you get to Florida State from Connecticut?
I actually had a friend who was a year older than me, Jen Acker, and she now does theater work in Atlanta, and she was auditioning for musical theater programs and she got into the BA program at FSU. She didn't get into musical theater, but she also got into the music program. So she was like, I'll just double major, do that thing. And a few months in, she called me up. She knew I was applying to music schools, because I was applying to a lot of places in the Northeast. And she said, Evan, you need to come down to FSU and just do an audition and just look around. I think you're really going to love it, and it's going to be the right fit. And I went there for my audition and had the best time. And it felt so right. I remember I was on the phone with one of my parents in the airport on the way back, and I said, I'm really sad to be leaving this college campus after my audition. And they were like, I think that's a sign. I think if you get in, you should probably go there.
Yes. That's one of my favorite stories, is like when you step on a campus, know when you don't want to leave that's the place for you.
Yeah.
Trust your knowing.
I just loved it and had the most amazing mentors there. And and then I started teaching. I did my internship in Jacksonville because I didn't really have any roots in Florida. So I just wanted to go to an amazing teacher. And Scott Lehman was teaching in Tallahassee. And I said, Scott, who do I need to go intern with? And he goes, J. Mark Scott. You need to go find J. Mark Scott. And so I did, and interned with him, and he became my best friend and is just an incredible human being. And he retired at the end of that semester and said, do you want this job? I said, yes. So it was, I just kept lucking into things, a whole lot of, things happen for a reason.
Being at the right place at the right time, doing good work.
A whole lot of right place, right time. I've been incredibly fortunate in my journey. And so I taught high school just outside of Jacksonville for 4 years. And towards the end of that, I was in a long-term relationship with my now husband, Nick Powers, also an incredible chorus teacher. And we were long distance for 1.5 years and didn't want to be in a long distance relationship anymore. And he was down in the Orlando area. And I knew I wanted to eventually go to grad school for music ed and maybe teach teachers in the future. So I knew that I needed to learn how to teach middle school. So I only applied to middle school jobs. And that is how I ended up teaching middle school. I'm at Avalon Middle School. I took over for Michelle Vendette, who's outstanding.
Oh, she's epic.
Yes. It was so terrifying to take over for her.
Hey, shout out to Michelle. Woo!
She's so amazing. Hey, Michelle. But she rolled out the red carpet for me. She made the transition feel so much easier than it could have been. And she was still teaching in town. And so we would get together and I would say, how do I handle this student? And she would say, oh, this is how you handle this student. Like it was just amazing. So I've been here for the last 7 years. So that's how I ended up teaching middle school chorus. A lot of love and support all along the way.
So, okay, let's just go ahead and talk about what you think the difference is between high school and middle school chorus. If you could summarize that.
Wow.
You got to get ready for that music ed degree you're going to get eventually when you teach teachers to love teaching. What's the biggest difference?
Oh my gosh. Middle schoolers are, to me personally, just the excitement and purpose that a middle schooler feels in learning something completely foundational about music or about music literacy or discovering something new about their voice is the most rewarding moment. There's something so special about teaching musical foundations and being in an environment where kids are not as likely to fight you on learning, not like physically fight you, but like we introduce hand signs from second -5 and they just start doing them and they do the hand signs right away. But I remember when I taught high school, if I was introducing hand signs to kids who were 15, 16, 17, they weren't always as receptive, even if they were set up beautifully, by their previous teachers. And so the kids just absolute excitement for learning new things, and that they're in such a time of self-discovery that is just so unique and so different to their developmental level. And when you're able to basically like get them when the getting's good, like their brain is just so open to new things, and at the same time they're so insecure in who they are, and they're so trying to figure out where they belong in the world. And having the gift of being able to teach them at that age and help them to feel more confident and feel more secure and discover who they can be as musicians, and then give them the power of music literacy and appreciation for all that and build those foundations, then that when they get to high school and they go into chorus, they're just going to be able to soar and do so much cooler things because they had that background. So just their receptiveness and just where they are in their development is really, to me, what makes middle school totally special and totally an amazing environment for introducing service and introducing leadership and introducing humanity into their worlds when they're going to remember it most.
Oh, I love that this is like the perfect segue into what we're talking about. So before we go into this whole service and leadership thing, what foundations are your favorite? What are some of the foundations you're working on right now? I know we had talked earlier about helping students build that musical foundation. What are some of your tips and techniques? Let's just dig right in.
So, well, this year has been the most different. So the foundations that I focused on this year have just really been almost completely different. And it's funny, you actually just had an episode about this that will have aired about 2 weeks, I think, before this episode is airing, where you were talking to a teacher. Was it Miss Moore?
Elizabeth Moore.
And she was talking about how the pandemic has just allowed her to completely take everything apart and then put it back together and dig in to the little mechanics that make music so fun. And that is, I feel like I do that more in a not pandemic year than in a pandemic year. So it's interesting. I was listening to her experience and going, that is an amazing experience that I am not having right now, because I feel like I've totally turned from, not totally, but I've largely turned from that to humanity foundations. We've been focusing so much on what does it mean to build our voice and how does that build us up as human beings. And then, I was talking to you earlier, I don't know if it'll be in the episode edit, about this World Music Wednesday stuff that we've been doing that my friend Christiane introduced to me. And every week they visit a different country and their mind opens even more, and they realize, oh, their national anthem is really similar to our national anthem, and we have empanadas and they have empanadas, we just call them different things. And so that's one of our sayings: every country has an empanada. You just gotta find
every country has an empanada. Now I'm hungry. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so we've really been delving into the foundations where music can connect to humanity. And where I have not been doing enough this year is where foundations connect to music literacy and to music performance. And so I can't wait to get back to what Elizabeth was talking about. But when we're teaching foundations, if I were to give, I guess, one overall tip and trick, because there are still about 14 million that I don't know and I can't wait to learn and discover. The very beginning of the year, when I'm teaching beginning chorus students, instead of getting ready for a normal octavo concert, we spend our first 8 to 10 weeks preparing a conducting recital. And so it's like, basically think like an Informants, more or less. And where it came from was I was getting so I loved the first 4 weeks of school because it was, you can just focus on solfege hand signs and ear training and games and activities and teaching routines and, you know, getting into the nitty gritty. And then at year 5, you go, or week 5, you go, oh, holy crap, I have so much music to prepare. These kids have to actually sound like real singing in 5 weeks, and they're beginners, and that's terrifying. And so one year I was, one of the foundations I did in the first 4 weeks was teaching my students to conduct, just like a 4 pattern and a 3 pattern, and just breaking it way, way down and then spiraling it and making it as fun as possible for the kids. And I was working in my office between classes, and one of my kids pops into my room and he goes, "Mr. Powers, I'm really proud of my conducting skills and I would like to show them off. So can I conduct a song on our next concert?" And I was like,
I love middle schoolers.
I know, right? He just like went for it. Like, I know how to do this now, so it's time. I'm going to conduct this now.
My heart is exploding. I love this.
And so so number one, I was like, that's amazing. And we're going to figure out how you can do that. And number 2, what if every kid could do that at the same time? And so that's how the conducting recital came into play. And so I basically just sat down and I made a list of what are the foundations that I wish I had time to really dig into and really cover in the first 9 weeks. And so conducting a 3 pattern, conducting a 4 pattern is so important, because then the kids know what they're watching and they know not only how to follow it, but how to lead it. And then they can lead warm-ups more easily, you know, transfer.
Yes.
Solfege hand signs, I wanted the kids to know them so well that they could perform them and wanted to perform them and practiced to perform them. You know how kids will practice something for a performance before they'll practice something for like a Friday activity. And so when you make that part of the performance and they know they're going to be in front of an audience, they suddenly are practicing it at the bus stop and telling me stories about how they practice their hand signs.
Like they can't wait to like bust up in the room before school and show you their hand signs.
They bring friends into my room and their friends are going do, re, mi, re, do, like with the hand signs. And we're just like rocking out and having a good time. So that, and I wanted the kids to know how to teach a rote song. I wanted them to learn the rote sequence so that we could be more nonverbal in our rote sequences. And I wanted them to get a basic understanding of audience etiquette, when to clap, you know, when the when the conductor's hand goes down, you clap. I wanted them to I wanted them to be able to sing in a round a little bit. So we did like a solfege scale round and prepared that. A accelerando and retardando and, you know, all that stuff, you know, basic stuff. And so I made my list of tasks and then said, okay, how can we build this into a performance? And so, and choralography, right? Like them kind of getting an idea of how to move at the same time, at the same angle, but like having fun with it. So I designed a show around that. So the opening song, we did a Funga Alafia, and we did it as a round, and we did it with all these silly moves, and that was our choralography focus. And so the kids got used to clapping at the same angle, but making a game of it, making it fun. Because if it's not fun in the first 9 weeks, then like, bye, they'll never want to sing again.
Right.
And then we had a part of the Informants that was specifically about the kids teaching music to the audience, right? And so, and showing conducting to the audience. So I'd explain, okay, the kids are going to conduct. This is something I didn't learn until I was in college, and most people don't learn until they're in college, but your 6th graders are learning this. So automatically the audience is like, wow, my kid's so fancy. So they buy in. And then So they conduct in a 3 pattern, and then they conduct a few times, and then they conduct in a 4 pattern a few times, and then we go back and forth between 3 and 4 as we're getting faster and faster. And you know how impressive that looks. It's not that hard after you've practiced it a long time, but it's really impressive looking. And so the audience is all about it. And then the kids conduct the audience while they're teaching them the rote song, My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, or A Sailor Went to Sea, you know, like just like really simple, easy stuff. Yes, I'm loving it. Y'all who are listening on the podcast won't be able to hear it, but Emmy has a dance move for literally everything that I'm talking about, and it's giving me so much life. Okay, so we do that part of the concert, and then we switch over to the solfege part of the concert. And so I explain a little bit about what solfege is, like 60 seconds or less explanation, and then the kids do a quick fire, like show so, show re, show mi, show do, that kind of thing, and then they put that together in an ascending and descending major scale. And then they do that as an additive scale, do, re, mi, re, do, with every hand sign for every single one going up and down, and they have to do it backwards. And so, you know, for the audience, they're kind of like, what's going on? I think I appreciate this. But for the kids, it meant they learned that skill as a performance skill. And so they really worked hard to prepare that. And it is so ingrained in their body that they just do it automatically from then on. And then I pick a rote song. This year, it was this song called River that I learned in Treble Makers, my children's choir at UConn with Dr. Mary Ellen Chunda when I was in 5th grade. She's amazing as well. And the kids sing it on solfege, way slowed down, do, re, mi, fa, mi, etc. And then they go back and they sing it on words. I was born in the path of the winter wind. And so the audience sees directly how does solfege connect to a song. And then the last song that we do is like something that, you know, has an ostinato or something where there's a little bit of harmony happening, and the kids perform that. So basically they take the audience from start to finish of musical foundations, and they've performed that start to finish of musical foundations. And then I got to spend the first 8 to 10 weeks only focusing on musical foundations. And it's awesome. And the kids come off of the conducting recital so excited about it. The older kids always ask how the conducting recital went. A bunch of them will show up for it.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah, it's real cool. So
what a great idea. And that wraps up all the foundations.
A lot of them. Yeah.
You're building the heart and the love and the passion, not just for your students and choir, but for the families and the audience. And what a perfect segue into this whole building heart and service and leadership thing. Will you
segues today, Emmy?
No, you make this so easy. Are you kidding me? You're making this easy peasy. So we talked a little bit about foundations already. But another thing you do in your school is this Songbirds program. Yeah. And let's kind of dive right into this whole service aspect, building heart and service and really these leaders for life. So just you talk, you're inspirational all by yourself.
I'm going to backpedal a little bit. So the conducting recital we just talked about, that is where we introduce the kids to the service aspect of the program. And so every concert that we do, we always have a service material collection kind of aspect to it. So I talk about this example a lot. So we one of our conducting recitals, we did Sock It to Homelessness. And this came from, I had a bunch of single socks in my drawer and didn't want to throw them away and felt like there's got to be some good place to donate these. And so I go down an internet rabbit hole, and it turns out there are a lot of places that collect single socks and gently used socks and stuff for the homeless population, and then they'll repurpose them and give them out. And so I was like, well, I teach in an upper socioeconomic neighborhood. I bet they have a lot of gently used socks, and they have a lot of buying power to buy new socks, and we can donate those. And so we attached the theme Sock It to Homelessness to the conducting recital that year. And what I asked was for families to bring in new or gently used pairs of socks or single socks that were washed and donate them. And we had a donation table at the front, and the families brought in 2,000 socks. We made 1,000 pairs of socks at this first. It was awesome at this first concert. And we ended our concert with the song Home by Philip Phillips. And during those first 9 weeks, we had a couple of lessons on what homelessness can look like, and we talked about, okay, what are the kids' stigmas and stereotypes that they associate with homelessness? Okay, here are some interviews with some people who are living as homeless, who you might never expect and who you might not realize. And there are absolutely people who go to our school who are homeless and you just don't know. And what are ways that we can support the homeless community in real ways, that kind of a thing. And so we had lessons and discussions about that, and sixth graders are very insightful about that, as in, close to as insightful as seniors in high school are. And so tying all of that together and then finishing our concert with the song Home, which then became a tradition. The kids loved it so much, they stick to it. And every year the eighth graders are like, can we sing Home again? It's so wonderful. And the audience got into that, and they really bought into that. And so then at the end of the concert, we had trash bags full of these socks, and we asked audience members to take the socks home, wash them, and then bring them back in, which we knew that they could be trusted to do, because at that point they were so bought in and they wanted to be a part of things. And that's a really big part of it, is finding ways that the community can be involved in the project in a way that alleviates work and time for you. Like if I took home 1,000 pairs of socks to wash them, I don't know if I would have the energy to do the project again, right. But these families could each take a trash bag home, dump it in the laundry, bring it back the next day, no big deal. So using the power of your community to help to serve your community. So we have all these socks, and then in class, first period dumped out all the socks so this is 2,000 pairs of socks, and separates them into brand new packaged socks. And then from there, different kinds of socks. Like these are adult men's socks. These are dress socks. These are athletic socks. And so first and second period separates all these socks. So we just have a classroom full of socks, right? And then third and fourth period, they work on trying to pair the single socks. And it's amazing. And they were able to do it. They made so many pairs of socks. And then the classes later in the day are repackaging these socks. So we have boxes full of, this box is for children's socks that are white socks. This box is for children's, silly socks. This is for, all of these different things. And so all of the kids throughout the day have the opportunity to put their hands on this service project, because without that tactile experience, without seeing it right in front of them, they're just not going to make the connection that is going to make them want to do more, And
they won't remember it.
And then I did a drop off I was living in downtown Orlando at the time. So I loaded up my car, did a drop off at the homeless shelter, and came in with 1,000 pairs of socks. And I walked in and they said, do you work for Nike or something? I was like, no, I just teach in a rich neighborhood. And they were like, oh, cool, thanks. And I gave them all this.
So I'm wanting to know, how much space do 1,000 socks take up?
You know what? It fit in my little baby Prius. It was fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just trying to fathom 1,000 pair of socks. It's just a lot of socks.
It worked out. And we did a similar collection later. We actually applied that to our all-county program. And so our all-county chorus collected socks from all the kids from all the different schools in the county. And so it was a lot more than 1,000 pairs of socks. But that's all to say, these are things that can start small and start very doable. Like when I say that this was no work, this was no work. I just put out a flyer and an email to the families saying, bring socks in. And then, from there, the community and the students did the vast majority of the work. I just did the little bit of organizing, and that is one way to really cultivate that in your program, is to put the work on the community and on the kids, and so that they take ownership of it.
And you're demonstrating how you are a good delegator, which means you are an excellent leader, and you're giving them, you're empowering the students and the community members and the family. There's so many great connections there through one small project.
I was a great delegator that one time, Emmy.
Yeah, lies. Although I am noticing if you're watching this on the YouTube, the half-open cabinet behind you. I'm sure that's awesome. I feel like it's perfect. I love it. It is an amazing office. It makes me miss middle school even more.
I am incredibly fortunate to have an office. That's how I feel. So anyway, so we start with projects like that, and then get the kids excited about doing community service projects, and then um, so Songbird is this project that we do every semester now, except for COVID took it away, which really stinks. But we're really excited. I just actually went over to the assisted living and talked to them a couple days ago, and they're super pumped to have it back in the fall.
Yay! Okay, I knew you'd know soon. Okay, good.
Oh yeah, we got to. So Songbird is something that I was approached with. It was not my idea. I will never take credit for it. I was approached by a member of the community named Linda Taylor, who had been approached by the team of Alive Inside. And Alive Inside is a documentary that if you haven't seen it,
Oh my gosh.
run.
Henry. I show Henry at the end of every one of my music ed classes. I'm like, this is your job, to prepare all the Henrys.
Henry is everything. And so,
Oh.
and that documentary, it's a wonderful documentary to show to students, especially if you're at the end of the year and you're trying to find something with purpose. Show them Alive Inside. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
gonna put that on the episode notes.
It'll flip upside down how they see the power of music. It is just incredible. And the documentary is about an hour and 15 minutes long. So if you need something to do for the rest of a testing period, it is the perfect amount of time. Though I think this is going to air. Oh, Northeast schools will still be in school when this airs, so we'll be good.
Southern schools will be almost out, but Northern schools, they're still going strong.
Peace. So anyway, they approached her, and she approached me, looking to get school-age students involved in music and memory. And music and memory is, I think it's musicandmemory.org. Dan Cohen founded it, and Alive Inside is about music and memory. And the idea behind music and memory is finding music that that elders connect with, and that older adults, it helps to more or less bring back memories, and we're talking about people who are in varying stages of dementia, varying forms of dementia. So they're living in memory care. They might have all their language, they might have none of their verbal language, but you're finding those songs that, let's say someone has aphasia, they don't have verbal language. When you play that song, they start singing along, and many of you might have had that experience of hearing someone sing, even if they have trouble, speaking a complete sentence. There's just nothing like it. And so the goal is to build a playlist of songs that a resident will be able to connect with. And if you watch Alive Inside, it was all about iPods, right? And we don't really use iPods anymore much, but there's so many other things you can hook them up to an iPhone. You can, use Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. My kids make YouTube playlists and do it off that, so it's totally free. You curate a playlist to a resident, and the people who do this curating are 2 middle schoolers. So we'll pair 2 middle schoolers with 1 resident, and they form a relationship with the resident. They figure out what music they like, which sometimes is really easy. Sometimes you can talk to the resident and say, what songs do you love? And they will just rattle it off. But if they have aphasia, if they don't, or if they are piecing language together in a way that almost sounds like gibberish, it doesn't make sense to the listener, and the students, they go in with an arsenal of songs ready from the 40s, from the 50s, from the 60s.
Yes.
And they have this list of songs, and they'll play a song off the list. For example, Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra. So they know to play that and see if the resident responds, maybe through head nods or tapping their foot or moving, or they might have had really low nonverbal, and then their eyes open up and they get really big, and the kids know, okay, I'm going to write that song down if they were into that, and then I'm going to play another Frank Sinatra song and see if it's the artist, or maybe I'll just play another jazz song and see if it's the genre, that kind of a thing.
Oh,
and so
sweet.
So kids have success finding songs, and it is hard, and it pushes the students developmentally. I mean, picture a 7th grader trying to figure out through nonverbal communication what music an 87-year-old is into. And that might feel like an impossible task, but when I tell you that they naturally just cling to it and figure it out, I am not lying. I usually lie. I'm not lying right now. These kids, and they have no confidence in themselves going into it as much as I might try and pump them up. And then they have the experience and they come out of it going, oh my gosh, I did something to help someone today. I had a purpose today.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And they will give really reaffirming nonverbal and verbal back to the residents. So the residents who might feel like they don't have purpose that day because they needed help with everything and couldn't remember what to do, they had purpose in that moment, and you can see it. The confidence that the residents are filled with is just, it's unbelievable. And then they form this symbiotic relationship, and these kids week to week to week cannot wait to spend time with their residents and introduce them to new songs. And the kids will go in, I tell them to stick to the playlist, but I'm also like, if you want to share your music, you can share your music. And so I have a video clip of a couple of my students playing You Will Be Found for Dawn. And if you know You Will Be Found from Dear Evan Hansen, it's lyrics that you're gonna cry if you're in a situation like this with You Will Be Found. And Don had never heard the song before, but he'll start chiming in and singing with anything that he hears. And so it's this video clip of Don, who's in his 80s, singing You Will Be Found with my two 7th and 8th grade students.
Oh.
And my 8th grade boy is welling up with tears and starting to cry. And afterwards, he just goes, Mr. Powers, I haven't experienced anything like that before. Because he had the gift of introducing his music to the residents. Because when there is that back and forth, that relationship where the residents can also give appreciation for the kids' music, and then the kids can give appreciation for the residents' music, it's just unbelievable. So,
okay, well, talk us through, how does this happen? Like, how do you pick the students? Okay, so it's a semester-long thing.
Same brain. Yeah. So it's a semester long. And at the very beginning of the process, we have an application process that is literally just the kids getting permission forms filled out. So I can legally take them with me, because I really strongly feel philosophically that this experience is important for every student. And so no application process allowed, no audition process allowed. And if you hand in the signed forms, then you are in the pool. And then I randomly select students for the pool. And when I say randomly, I mean mostly randomly. I try and make sure that the group that I select is representative of our choral program and ideally representative of the residents. And so I might make, some different piles for gender, for ethnicity, for things like that, and make sure that from those piles, I'm randomly selecting students for sure.
How many do you take every semester for the program?
We're able to take up to 20 students is what we do. And we work with Encore at Avalon Park, in Avalon Park, which is a neighborhood in Orlando. And they have 2 dedicated memory care floors, and then 1 floor that is just general assisted living. And so we split the kids between the 2 floors. So about 10 kids per floor I would say that's probably a pretty good max for anyone who's thinking about doing a program like this. It's otherwise it can get really overwhelming. And when, you might not know, actually, if you're working with people who are in memory care, too much stimulus is not necessarily a good thing. It can get really, really overwhelming. And so it can get really loud with more than 10 middle schoolers playing music and dancing and singing along. And so 10 was a good number for us to be able to spread out around the floor. And so once those 20 students are selected, we have a 4 to 5 week training period. And so the training week's first week is we watch Alive Inside and talk about it and talk about the students' reactions to it. The second week, we have an empathy training that is often done with caretakers of people in memory care. And so it is a way to put the students in the shoes of the residents without causing them any physical harm or distress. So we're going to give the kids goggles where it almost feels like they have cataracts, different symptoms of things that they might have. Headphones that have some random sounds happening. in them, because a lot of our residents do deal with that stimulus. Gloves where they have a couple of fingers taped together, where they start to be able to experience what it might feel like to have arthritis. The gloves are like a thick material, so it's really difficult for them for dexterity. Little spiky things, not real spiky, like the plastic stuff you put under a carpet.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll put that at the bottom of their shoes. It doesn't hurt. I promise y'all. We're not abusing children. So it gives them a little bit of that feeling of neuropathy, a little bit. And so then the students are given 3 to 5 simple tasks to complete. Pour 4 glasses of water, set the table, button a button-down shirt, find these 3 t-shirts from the laundry. And again, this is a training that has been regulated and is used across the country for caretakers. This is not something that I came up with, no credit.
No, you bring in an outside person.
Yes, we bring in an outside person who is trained in giving those trainings to do that. And if you don't know how to find that person, just call your local assisted living and they will point you towards someone. And so the kids have that experience, and then they come back in and we do a debriefing and talk about, okay, how did it feel to do that? What do you think the residents who we're going to be working through go through? And it's so interesting. These kids come out of this experience thinking, oh my gosh, how can these residents function? How can anyone function if they have Alzheimer's or dementia? Or, I had trouble remembering what any of the steps were, what the tasks were. And I have a functioning memory. So I can't imagine what this is like for someone who doesn't have that. And then we learn about the music of different genres like swing and golden age jazz. And the kids, we have a training session where the kids learn a few songs. We call them our back pocket songs, like Amazing Grace is one of them, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Fly Me to the Moon, Wise Men Say Only Fools Rush In, I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. Sorry, it took me a second. So that the kids have things that they can automatically start singing with the residents. And then we do speed dating. We do a meet and greet. So we go over to the assisted living. The kids get to know the basically physically where the residents are living. And then the staff there make sure that most of the residents are out. We make sure it's before dinner. And the kids just go onto the floor and go around and introduce themselves to the residents. And we teach them some sentence stems, some conversation starters, things like make sure that you're at eye level, that you're not looking down at them, but you get, you crouch down to their level so that you can look them right on. Nonverbal is at 100%. Verbal is at maybe, 30 to 40%, depending on what they're comfortable hearing. And they just have sweet conversations with the residents. And we don't stay on the floor for more than like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, so that it's not the kids trying to figure out for a long period of time, how do I keep these conversations going? But they just get that initial experience, that hands-on experience that is so huge for middle schoolers. And then we come back and we debrief and we talk about it. And the kids always go, oh my gosh, it was like talking to a friend.
Oh,
I know. And they don't realize that it's going to be like that because of stereotypes, because of stigma, and that empathy training, while incredible and while important, also gives them the idea that the people that they're talking to are going to be less functional than they actually are. So they also come out of that experience going, these people are resilient. These people are strong. I can't believe that they had the energy and strength to smile at me and have a conversation with me. This is from the mouths of middle schoolers, y'all.
Oh, jeez. This is amazing.
And so then from there, we pair them with residents. And for the next 5, 6, 7 weeks, however much time we have left in the semester, they have one of the residents that they met through speed dating that they then do the playlist sessions with. And the first week they figure out what music that they like, and then it's really like a guest check and revise from week to week, and they get to know their personalities. And every week we actually take the assisted living has like a minibus, so that's how we transport the kids from the school to there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, otherwise the access would only be for kids whose parents could get off of work early, right? And That's not
But
that.
what a
That's
great
cutting off
that's a
access right there.
perfect idea of collaboration. You're giving students and a product of a final playlist. Which how does the resident get the playlist in the end?
So at our particular place, they have Kindle Fires that they have
Mm-hmm.
bought for the program, because Kindles aren't super expensive if
Mm-hmm.
they have a budget for that, and they're loaded up with Spotify. So we just make a Spotify playlist and leave it there.
Oh, sweet.
So
Okay.
then the staff, anytime, and y'all will watch Alive Inside, and you'll see music is a wonderful intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can go a step further and work with a place that has a certified music therapist, ooh, like
Mm-hmm.
bingo, you win. And so, but the staff, especially if they're trained in music and memory, can just go up to the resident with the Kindle Fire, help the resident with the headphones, and they can listen to their playlist and they can sing along. It is a whole lot more rewarding for them when the kids are there doing it with them, because when you bring in youth, that is a
Mm-hmm.
whole different story. um, but still having that music left with them is really
Oh,
important,
so cool.
really beautiful.
Now, you have these two, like you do a different group of 20 kids each semester. What are the impacts that you see from the students that have gone through this program in your choral program?
Whew. So how middle schoolers will often approach life with their blinders on, and they're
Mm-hmm.
very, very fixated on what is happening right in front of them and what they see in front of them. You can see where this is going. Blinders are off, y'all. And that really makes a huge difference in the classroom environment. The kids who are a part of Songbirds are uh, so much more aware of the nonverbal communication of the students around them in the
Mm-hmm.
classroom, and then of their teachers as well.
Mm-hmm.
I hear from teachers about how these kids, like, their empathy levels are like through the roof. They are way more confident in themselves and way more purposed in their singing. I have kids who, I was shocked, applied for Songbird because they barely sang above a whisper in choir, if they even
Mm-hmm.
sang. Those kids, they're
Mm-hmm.
like mouthing everything. They love music, but they're so terrified to have their voices heard by the people around them. Well,
Mm-hmm.
this gives their voice a purpose that is undeniable. If they use their voice with these residents, they immediately cause joy. Immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And so they come out of experiences like this knowing that their voice, because they have that tangible product, they know their
Mm-hmm.
voice creates joy, and they can't wait to sing around people. It's unbelievable. I'm not saying that is every single student. Every
Right.
kid is unique. But I mean, if even this causes that in one student, that's a
Worth
life
it.
change
Yes.
for the way better. And then imagine how they're going to communicate to people that they are leading in the
Mm-hmm.
future. And these kids absolutely become leaders. They're in this leadership situation here. And then they come back to school and they tell the other kids, you need to apply for Songbird now. And so we've had over 100 kids go through this program. And I I just got letters, believe it or not, this morning. So our high school has a beautiful program where the high school seniors can write letters to middle school teachers who have impacted them.
Oh.
I got letters this morning from 3 kids in our first class of Alive Inside kiddos, talking about their experiences in Alive Inside
Oh.
and what
And
that
they're
meant.
seniors.
Yes. One of them is going into, get ready for it, music therapy.
Yes. Why not?
You know where she fell in love with that idea? Alive Inside.
Yes.
So,
Oh my goodness. I'm hoping this is the perfect time for this episode because everyone's about to like come down from the summer. They have all the time in the world to stay in their pajamas all day and watch Alive Inside. Get
absolutely.
your box of Kleenexes and then plan your own songbirds.
Do it. You have to do it. And someday I'm going to finish a handbook on this. and
Oh, I'll help you. I'll help you.
I am
We'll make that happen.
I am an idea person, not a great follow through person. Any of my friends who are listening know that I'm speaking the gospel truth. So.
Okay, well, Evan, I'm getting ready to warn you. We're making Songbirds happen in Savannah. It's already on my goal list for the year. That's why this episode had to happen now, because I'm gonna get to work this summer. Watch out, Rise is gonna become part of your Songbirds thing. So this handbook will happen.
Anyone who is listening, who is like, I need this handbook right now, we can also over the summer have a conversation. We can email. I would love to Zoom with you. evan.powers@ocps.net.
Well, Evan, you should come down to Savannah for Teacher PD weekend. Bring the other half, and we'll have a good old time.
When is it? I might be in my master's.
Oh, yeah, you'll probably be in your master's. July 23rd, 24th, 25th.
That's the weekend before finals, I believe. I will be studying. I'm so sorry.
Studying. That's okay. When you're done with this whole summer master's thing, come on down to Savannah in July.
Last episode, I was like, "Oh, I'd love to go to that." But I am so pumped. I'm starting my summer master's this summer, and I cannot wait.
Well, congratulations.
Point where like you just really need to learn more. You just don't know what you don't know. I mean, we always need to all learn more, right? But I am especially stuck, and I am, like many people, going through a year of feeling like I don't know how to teach anymore.
And going back to real life and back and forth. Oh, yes, that's real.
It'll be good to learn.
Oh, I can't wait to hear. We'll have to touch back base and make sure it gets all done. And when you're finished with that summer master's, you and I can sit down and finish that handbook and make Songbirds a thing.
We're going to do it. It's going to happen.
I'll hold you to it. You can be all the ideas, but I'm going to make it happen.
I'm ready. You're an action person. I love it. So anyway, Songbird is the best, and anyone can do it. And it is much easier than it seems, especially when you create community partnerships. So if you have someone in your community who is willing, outside of the school, who is happy to step in and help out, that's awesome. So,
this is so good. Hey, you listen to the podcast, which thank you so much for being a listener. I always let the guest share one thing that really matters at the end of every episode. So what is your one thing that you want the listener to walk away with?
The incredible importance and accessibility of community service and infusing that into your program. And I know that is going to sound like more of the same from what we've been talking about, but I cannot emphasize enough how much doing community service projects, and to be completely honest, I don't do enough. The community service projects that I do are with my students, and it's once a semester, maybe. It never feels like enough. But we're in a profession where it takes all of our time, and we need time for ourselves too. So if you're feeling like I just don't have time to do this, this is something that you might be able to do once a semester with your students, and involve the students in community in a way where they're doing the heavy lifting, and you're giving them you're putting the opportunity in front of them. And when they're able to do that heavy lifting, that's where leadership is going to happen. That's where that ownership of service is going to happen. And so think about what are the specific needs of your community, of your students, and you can ask your students, what do you need? What are the people around you talking about? What can we do? And maybe it's going to be a material collection. We do material collection type stuff almost every time. Maybe it'll be a financial collection. Maybe it'll be going and singing at a soup kitchen during dinner service. Maybe it'll be, I mean, it could be anything. Whatever is going to serve your community and serve your students and help them to feel true ownership of serving the people around them. You're building empathy. You are giving purpose to your students. You're infusing more purpose into your own experience. You're teaching your students love and how to show that love in an actionable way. And they will carry those lessons forward, and you will feel so much amazingly better about what you're doing. And I am sure that you're already doing things like this, or doing your own form of things like this. So thank you for the service that you are doing, people who are listening. And I hope that some of the stuff that we've talked about has encouraged you to take on community service in a way that feels actionable and doable in your classroom, especially when COVID restrictions start to be lifted, as more people start to be vaccinated, and stay away variants, please.
Evan, this has been so much fun. I know this will be one of many times that you come on the podcast, because the podcast is how I continue learning forever and ever, because even after you get the doctorate, you have like Swiss cheese holes in your brain. So I will very much look forward to having you back on the show at some point. But thank you for sharing your story and foundations and service and fun. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing, and you're amazing, and thanks for doing this service for our profession. You are beautiful, Emmy.
Wasn't that the best conversation? Oh, my heart is exploding. Evan has so much excitement and energy and heart. So walk away from this one with heart. How can you infuse service and love and a passion for people in new ways with whatever you're doing? But don't worry. You matter. Whatever you're doing right this very moment, it matters. And this is just an idea for how to take it to the next level so that we can show our students other ways that music can matter in our communities, in our world, in our life, building service leaders forever, for life. What a cool job we have. I'm so honored to call you a friend and a colleague. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you again to Evan for sharing these great stories. And I really, really cannot wait to actually see you at some point someday. But until then, what you're doing matters. We all know that music matters, especially service learning and memory work with music. And I will see you next time on the Music Ed Matters podcast.